Hello, friends. Dr. Omar here. You may have heard of Lunchly, which is supposed to be a competitor to Lunchables. And maybe you have a child or you know someone who is susceptible to this kind of marketing to children for food. My goal here is to show in a fair manner the pros, but mostly the cons of Lunchly, because from a medical point of view, I think it's just terrible that we allow this kind of marketing to children who don't know any better. And are influenced by these celebrities to buy stuff that's really not so healthy for them. I normally don't talk about this kind of pop culture stuff, but this one was so egregious. And I just think of all the kids who are eating this stuff. It's just terrible. So hang with me and I'm going to show you exactly what's wrong here. Hopefully you can protect yourself and your families. All right. So Lunchly is this new product that's launched by a bunch of these online celebrity type people. And it includes type of package that's supposed to be marketed to children, which includes a drink called Prime and various types of meat and grains and cheese products put together. And its main competitor is Lunchables. You maybe even grew up eating Lunchables before we discovered that even bacteria and worms wouldn't eat it if it was buried into the ground. So that's what we're talking about here. Now, it has these celebrity endorsements, Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, and KSI. I'm not so familiar with these people, but apparently they're very popular. This is marketed as a healthy alternative to Lunchables, and the target audience is primarily kids and children. And perhaps you've even seen some of these ads. So this is what it looks like. I want to give you a little close up here because look at this stuff. This is supposed to be a nutritious meal for children. Is this pepperoni or something that's plastic? I don't even know. This cheese, would you eat that kind of thing? What is this? Some cardboard cutout chemical wafer of some kind with something in a wrapper that looks like tomatoes or ketchup with this cherry freeze prime hydration drink. And I think we'll come back to this, but look at the word hydration there. They're marketing this as somehow replenishing lost fluids or sweat. This is what they call the pizza lunchly. Now let's look at another fine product of American cuisine called the Fiesta Nachos lunchly. What exactly is this white sauce here? That can't be good for you. And this doesn't look like just ketchup. It looks like something else. And in here, there's some kind of like chocolate bar hidden underneath the nachos. And these don't really look like high quality grains. So just can you imagine subjecting children to this? Here's the nutritional information. Now, of course, if you go onto their website, they're going to make it look good. That's what a lot of marketing does. And here's how they try to spin it. They say, look at us, Lunchly. And now just looking at the turkey stackums, that's one of these meals. It has 11 grams of protein. Okay, the same as Lunchables. Now, it has less calories than Lunchables, so 230. Now, the first big issue there is that if it has less calories, kids need a certain amount of calories per meal. So they're more likely to eat more of these. And of course, they're going to buy more of them. So you have to consider that in terms of the total amount of stuff they're putting in their bodies. Electrolytes. Now, this is the most egregious one. They call it electrolytes and they say 400 milligrams per prime flavor in each Lunchly pack. So it looks like they're saying that this 400 milligrams is coming from the prime drink. And they say Capri Sun only has 55 milligrams. So the reason this is misleading is because their electrolytes generally have a good connotation and they're making it sound like they're giving kids something that's good. But what we'll see is that this is really not only not so good, but not even needed for kids. And then it does have less sugar per package. That's truthful. I believe that's truthful. There is less sugar. So what is missing in these ads? First of all, you'll notice they don't mention actual amounts of sodium in the products. Why? Because when we get to that later, you'll see they're not healthy levels. So they're hiding the ball there. That's a deliberate obfuscation. And they're also not showing the saturated fat content. And these are not healthy levels either. So they're only showing you selective nutritional information. That's the first thing to notice. The second thing is if you actually look again here, they're not showing you saturated fat. They're not showing you sodium. They're not showing the other electrolytes. They're just using this word electrolytes. So that's misleading. And now let's look at the actual nutritional facts. I had to hunt for this in some ways, and I'll explain that. This is the turkey stackum. So first of all, total fat is 12 grams in one package, 15% of the daily value. And the saturated fat is high. 6 grams is 30% of the daily value. Now, we know excessive saturated fat has consequences for your cardiovascular system. And in young children, in the unfortunate cases where a young person does die, if you do an autopsy, you can often see the beginning of heart disease with these fatty streaks in their blood vessels around their heart and other arteries. So we know heart disease and clogged arteries start at a very young age. And probably this junk food epidemic is partly to blame. The second thing here is sodium is 480 milligrams per package. That's pretty high for a lunch and for a young kid. Total carbohydrates are nothing really remarkable, includes 6 grams of added sugar, and it is less than the Lunchables. Protein is 11 grams, not bad. But let's look into the so-called electrolytes here. So first of all, vitamin A is the one that's concerning. Vitamin A is 270 micrograms. That's 30%. Now, the thing about vitamin A is that it's a fat soluble vitamin, just like vitamin D, K, and E. What that means is that these vitamins are absorbed faster than the other vitamins and they are stored longer. So you can have problems of toxicity. So you don't want to have too much vitamin A in your body, especially as a kid, because you can't get it out as easily as the other vitamins. That's why for vitamin B6 and B12, it's not that big of a deal that it's 150% or 120% of the daily value here. You can see the concerning vitamin is vitamin A. So let's look at some of the claims versus reality, and we'll come back to the vitamin A. First of all, they market themselves as a healthier alternative to Lunchables. A healthier alternative, the does not mean that it's actually healthy. Just like if you say that New York City's garbage per square foot is a cleaner alternative to San Francisco's garbage per square foot, it doesn't mean that it's actually a clean city. It's still extremely dirty and there's a lot of garbage. So that's a misleading claim in some ways because it's still not healthy. It's a relative level of health. And I would argue it's actually not a healthier alternative if you look at the other cons to Lunchly. There's some things that are healthier, but overall, it's not clear that it's healthier. So that is, I think, misleading too. We'll see that. And then just the ethics or the lack thereof of marketing to kids. You're giving kids something that's not very healthy, even if it's quote unquote healthier in some ways, but we'll see, not really. So just the ethics of that is really messed up. And how these people can sleep at night. These people have millions of dollars and they're trying to scrap another buck off of selling junk food to kids, but doing so in the guises of being healthier. At least just be honest and direct and say, hey, look, here's a bunch of Oreo cookies. We're going to put our name on it. Hey, kids, eat this because you're cool if you eat this because I like these things. Fine. That's at least honest. But here, not only are they marketing something that's not so healthy, but they're putting it with a label of misleading marketing to make it seem healthy. That's terrible stuff. Now, the pros, the good things about Lunchly versus Lunchables is that there is real cheese used as opposed to the fake cheese of Lunchables. They do seem to have higher quality meats used, which is good. They do have less sodium per serving. We'll get back to that. They do have less sugar. They do have less saturated fats and they have more potassium. Now, we're going to get back to potassium as well, but more vitamin D as well. So there are some good things here too. We want to be honest. The red flags, however, first of all, there's been some reports of mold in the cheese. One of the consequences of using real cheese is that it goes bad easier than the fake cheese. So there have been some credible reports that have been covered by the media. For example, in this article in Vulture, the Food and Drug Administration told TMZ that as of October 25th, 2024, the agency has received more than 10 complaints about Lunchly. One consumer reportedly said they might have gotten sick because of the product. The FDA said it is reviewing all submissions and will provide updates if action is deemed necessary. So that's pretty concerning. I'm sure no kid wants to eat moldy cheese, even if it's real cheese. Additional cons of Lunchly are, even though it may have less saturated fat, it's still pretty high saturated fat content per serving, as we saw. The USDA recommends that lunch meals should have it no more than 10% or less of calories from saturated fat. And for Lunchly, it's 30%. So in no way is this necessarily healthy. Also, there's no whole grains in the ingredients, if you look, and the USDA has recommended that at least 50% of what kids eat should be whole grains for foods that have grains in them. So that's not good. In addition, the sodium is relatively high in general. So the sodium per serving is lower than Lunchables, yes, and they're happy to market that. But when you adjust it for the number of calories consumed, Lunchly has higher sodium per calorie consumed. For example, in the turkey stack'em. So if you have to correct for the number of calories consumed. So if a typical kid is going to have calories per lunch and Lunchly is only 230 calories, it might be true that they have less sodium per serving, but if you adjust for the amount of calories they're going to consume in a typical lunch, it's going to actually be higher than Lunchables, and it's already really high. So overall, a sodium bomb and not really good. Also, it is a ultra processed food. Lunchly still qualifies as an ultra processed food. This is not healthy food at all. This is the pro inflammatory stuff. And we know ultra processed foods are connected to cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, all kinds of terrible stuff, obesity, and poor long term health outcomes. So you don't want kids near this stuff. Finally, as I mentioned, the dishonest marketing spin healthier doesn't mean healthy, cleaner doesn't mean clean. New York City's garbage on their streets is cleaner than San Francisco, but it doesn't mean it's anywhere near clean. You would not expose people to that if you could avoid it. Now let's go to the Prime hydration drink. Now this is the little drink that's included with the lunch pack with the space food or whatever you want to call it. This has celebrity backing, so it's the official sponsor of UFC and other athletic events. And the marketing angle, it's positioned as a daily hydration solution with 400 milligrams of electrolytes. Now, Prime is sold separately with caffeine to non children. But when it's included in the little package for kids, it doesn't have any caffeine and it's still included as like one of their prime products. So keep that in mind. And they're saying it has 400 milligrams of electrolytes. So let's look and see what do they say about this for the kids. So it's caffeine free. And again, like it's odd to say caffeine free when you're marketing to a kid because kids don't or drink things with a lot of caffeine. Do you know any kids drinking caffeine all day? It's just weird. Maybe they're saying that because their other product is dangerous according to some government agencies. They're trying to say, look, this one's not dangerous. As we'll see later, their other prime drink has been banned in some countries or restricted. So this one Ice Pop Prime Hydration has B vitamins and 400 milligrams of electrolytes. So let's see what they mean by that. What they did was they took potassium and they labeled it as an electrolyte, as a rebranding tactic. So the reason that's weird is because, first of all, potassium can be bad for you if you go into consuming too much of it. There's a medical condition called hyperkalemia, which can be very bad for people. You can have heart attacks and problems with your muscles and other organs if you have too much potassium. So, more potassium is not always good. And potassium is not necessarily something that it's honest to brand as an electrolyte in the context of hydration. Now, if that prime drink is considered electrolytes, then so would this guy eating this pizza be consuming electrolytes, but nobody would be selling this greasy, high saturated fat bread and cheese and a pepperoni product and saying, hey, look, buy this because it's going to give you electrolytes. It's just really weird marketing. It's obviously manipulative and deceptive. This pizza has a bunch of sodium, potassium, and all kinds of other stuff in it too that are technically electrolytes. It's just odd and dishonest. And I think they're just using this association to say, hey, you think electrolytes are good, therefore we're good. We're giving you electrolytes. So we're good and our product's good. And obviously this doesn't make any sense. And so the second thing is that if you look at what actually a clinician would do to rehydrate somebody, it doesn't make any sense to give kids a drink for daily or routine use because these kind of drinks are totally unnecessary for kids unless they're doing intense physical activity or the kid is like an extreme athlete or some kind of training for the Olympics or something. Most kids do not need this on a daily basis or routinely. Number one. Number two, if they were going to be needing a hydration solution, it would not be high potassium that they need. Potassium is not the most important electrolyte for hydration. So they should have just consulted with a doctor before making this drink because it's just hilarious that they went on this marketing route up the potassium alley and it's not even consistent with the science of hydration. It's just, this is like high school biology. Hydration is primarily based on salt, sodium, and sugar with water, just like Gatorade. That's why Gatorade is used in all these professional sports because Gatorade will rehydrate you. And the reason for that is that the particular transporter that is responsible in your cells for bringing water in and out, it has a little subunit in the molecular structure where glucose has to bind with salt in order for it to work. There's nothing about potassium there that's going to be relevant for hydration or as relevant. And that's why rehydration solutions that like doctors use for severe dehydration, they're basically just sugar and salt. So in conclusion, Prime is not something you want to give a kid for daily hydration. And even if they were an athlete, you wouldn't really give this product to a kid anyway. In addition, when kids eat things, there are natural mechanisms in the body relating to the kidneys, molecular mechanisms that maintain electrolyte balance. There's no danger for most kids of getting electrolyte disturbances. If someone was exercising a lot and became really sweaty, they'd be losing salt. Again, that's why salt comes out onto your skin and your sweat is salty. It's mostly sodium that's being lost. It's got nothing to do with potassium, really. It's more sodium. And the best way to hydrate a kid is with water, fruits, vegetables, and just everyday healthy eating and normal hydration. You don't need these kind of drinks. And if somebody really needed a hydration therapy, it would be a sugar and salt solution, such as is used in medical hydration. And as I mentioned, glucose is a co-transporter with salt, not potassium. So this is like an anti-scientific drink, anti-clinical medicine. It just doesn't make any sense. And even the coconut water, yes, low calorie versions are better, but this is still not ideal for hydration claims. They have some coconut water in there. So the whole thing doesn't make any sense. It's all fluff and marketing and just messed up that it's targeting kids who are vulnerable and don't know better. Another red flag is that if you look at how much vitamin a child should actually ingest per day, the recommended daily allowance for 1 to 3 years is 300 micrograms. For 4 to 8 years, 400 micrograms. And from 9 to 10, 13 years, it's 600 micrograms. Now, the content, as I mentioned, for one of those kid servings of Prime is 270 micrograms per package. So they're getting like pretty close to their daily allowance in one little drink. Now, they've got all their other food and things like that as well to give them vitamin A. So remember, vitamin A is going to stick around in their body. And it's not going to be cleared as easily. So it can build up in a dangerous way. And there's a risk of toxicity with this kind of thing. I don't know why anyone would put vitamin A in a kid's hydration drink. Just doesn't make sense to me. The other thing is that let's go now to just the prime drinks that are not sold to kids necessarily, or they're not marketed directly to kids, but we know kids are still drinking these things because they're cool and they're on the shelves and you don't need an ID to buy them. Just the regular prime drinks that people are marketed. In Norway, sales of both the energy and the hydration variants were initially banned in 2023, but were both sold by import shops online and purchased from Sweden and then resold by consumers until authorities halted sales in May of 2023. Prime hydration was initially barred from sales due to levels of vitamin A being above the national regulations. Exactly. So anyone with even a grain of sense would not allow this into their country. Now, the other thing is that if you go and look at the actual non-kid version of Prime, the drink, on their website, they do something else that's misleading. It's very hard to even see the vitamin A content. Like I had to put my face really close to my computer screen. I still couldn't really make it out. And here's a close-up image of it. I'm really trying to find it. And it's somewhere here, if you see, vitamin A, 900 micrograms. So I can read it. It's a little bit blurry. It's a little bit small. It just seems they went out of their way to hide that on their bottle too. So this is the adult version too. And again, remember, the recommended daily allowance for an adult is 900 micrograms. So they're just at the limit too. Why would you give an adult 900 micrograms of vitamin A? Doesn't make sense to me. And again, the potassium is 700 milligrams, I think, but the sodium is 10 milligrams. Like this is a hydration drink. What are you doing? What are you thinking? 10% coconut water. Why would you include coconut water? It's just not coherent. It doesn't make any sense to me as a doctor. It's all marketing. Now, so I had to go to a different website, this springmarket.com, to find the actual ingredients, like not shrunken. So this is where I actually was able to read the ingredient label. And again, I see vitamin A 900 micrograms here, potassium 700 milligrams, and sodium is 10 milligrams. So this confirmed the ingredient list for me because I saw it from a place where it wasn't being blurred and shrunken. And again, this doesn't make any sense. So I confirmed the contents. And also, there's a lot of caffeine in these non-kid versions of the drinks, which kids still have access to if they go to a supermarket. There's excess caffeine in the regular prime drink as well. So in Australia, several schools have instituted bans on prime energy drinks as a health risk to students due to the high caffeine levels. The ABC News noted that the food standards in Australia and New Zealand legal limit for caffeine was 32 milligrams per 100 milliliters, while prime contains 56 milligrams per 100 liters. A sports dietitian described the drink as an addictive substance and went on to state that giving a dose of caffeine to young children who've got developing cognitive functions is not a wise idea. ABC noted that the drink on sale in Woolworth stores carried a disclaimer stating that the drink is not suitable for children under the age of 15, pregnant or breastfeeding women, and should only be used under medical or dietetic supervision. Similarly, in March of 2023, in Western Australia, schools banned Prime Energy, as did schools in New South Wales. And again, this is another marketing tactic. Instead of providing a quality product that's healthy, what you can do is jack up the caffeine content. So you're letting the actual addictive substance do your work for you. And you're wrapping that up in this marketing and this kind of nebulous sounding set of products that aren't really affecting hydration, but maybe have a cool color and they have a celebrity endorsement. But all you're doing is really just sneaking in a bunch of addictive stuff into it. That's what the caffeine is doing at these high levels. And caffeine is not benign. If you take two of these drinks in one day, you're at the upper limit of normal for an adult for caffeine per day, 400 milligrams. You can get heart arrhythmias depending on how you metabolize caffeine. So there's a bunch of kids probably who are drinking this stuff because it's on the shelf. It's not regulated. It's not like you need to show your driver's license to buy it. And you can get heart arrhythmias from drinking that amount of caffeine if you're a kid. So I think it's quite shameful what they're doing. So the key takeaways for me are these people are making money by targeting a vulnerable population who doesn't know better, kids, not primarily trying to offer a healthy product. And that's really important for people to know. This stuff is very shameful. So what did they do? They provided some of this information, this objective information, clinical information to one of the founders of this product, Logan Paul, and he said, "Yes, we could have made a lunch meal with carrots, celery, and apple slices, but I don't eat that. I don't. Sorry, that's not true. I will have those things, but for a lunch meal, I'm not interested in that. I want, and I always have wanted, a fun lunch. I grew up on Lunchables. I admit that. We all have. I wouldn't sell something that I don't eat myself, and I wouldn't find myself eating a carrot, celery, or apple slice lunch." Okay, now that's great. But when you're selling a product, it's not about you. It's not about what you would eat. You're giving it to somebody else. It's if I designed some shampoo for women who are having hair loss after pregnancy or something like that, and I said, I would never use it because I have never been pregnant and I don't have that problem. So what? I can't sell something that I would never use? If someone's selling a product, they have to be interested in whether it's actually good for their customer and the effect it's going to have on their customer, especially when they're kids. It's got nothing to do with whether you like it or not, or you would eat it or not. And say I was selling something that was terrible, but I say, "Oh, I would also eat it. It's no big deal." Like, what if I was selling a donut that had 100 milligrams of saturated fat per serving, and I said, "I stand by my product because 'cause I'm interested in that. I would eat that. So I stand by it. I want you to eat it too." It just doesn't make sense. You have to judge the product objectively. So the key takeaways, I think Lunchly is better than Lunchables in some ways. There's some domains in which it's better, but there's a lot that it's not better. So overall, I don't think it's a better product than Lunchables. They're both terrible. They're both ultra processed, and you should run away from either of them and don't expose your children to this kind of stuff. It's excessive vitamin A for kids in Lunchly. Of course, it lacks whole grains and could reinforce poor eating habits for sure. And the sodium per calorie is actually higher than the kids need, and that's not good either. And then for this prime stuff, in the kid version, it's an unnecessary daily hydration drink for sure. They've got it all wrong with potassium and sodium, and it's misdirected marketing as routine hydration. Kids don't need it, and even if they did, it wouldn't be potassium. It would be sugar and salt. They got everything mixed up. So my verdict is healthier is not healthy per se. Just like cleaner streets in New York versus San Francisco doesn't mean they're anything near clean. They're still disgusting. Both products should be consumed sparingly, if at all. I'd say never. It's misleading marketing for kids and parents who don't know any better. And I would say focus on just water, fruits, vegetables, and balanced meals for hydration and nutrition. And just run away from these ultra processed foods. Eat natural foods, eat fruits, vegetables, and there's tons of things in packages that are also healthy. You don't have to eat these things, no matter who the celebrity is, no matter who the person is who's endorsing it. It doesn't matter. Don't be manipulated by these people. Take care of your families, protect your kids. If you like this info, check out this other video here and join my free newsletter if you're interested in learning more about health content. Take care.